Mhm. Peace and blessings, everyone. As you know, I'm Michael B. Beckwith, and you're entering into the dynamic of the absolute truth of your being, that you're limitless. We're working with this theme of releasing the master within and to live a masterful life. Today, we're dealing with awakening. We want you to be aware, or I want you to be aware, that you might be dreaming that you're awake. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me begin with a story. A number of years ago, I was attending USC. I was a psychobiology major on a pathway to medical school. During this particular period of time, I began to have a series of inner experiences, lucid dreams, and a number of experiences at the time I called pathological. I didn't know what they were. I didn't really have a spiritual practice at the time. And so I really thought that looking through the lens of psychology at that time, that there was something wrong with me. As these particular experiences intensified, I got a little bit more nervous, but I began to have a series of lucid dreams. One of the lucid dreams was 3 men were chasing me. And I would wake up every night before the men could capture me. But every night, they were a little bit closer to me. Then at one point, they were so close I could see the outline of their faces. And I said to myself, as I looked around me, I could see that there were thousands of people trying to get into a small tent. And I knew every single one of the individuals that were in the tent, that were trying to get into the tent. And I said to myself, these men can't hurt me because I have all of my friends with me. So I stopped. I didn't run anymore. One by one, everyone in that long line turned their back on me. 2 of the men grabbed me, threw me to the ground, and one plunged a serrated knife through my heart. The pain was excruciating. I'm talking emotional pain, and I'm talking about the physical pain of my body, hurt. It was intense agony. And in this lucid dream, I died. When I woke up from that, there was pain in my physical heart, but I could see differently. I could see the luminosity that was all around me. The inanimate objects were shining and glistening with the luminosity, a brightness, a light. The plants were alive and singing. There was a light all around me. And the love that I was feeling from this presence that was everywhere was more intense, an intense love more than I'd ever experienced before in my young life. At that particular time, I called this presence love beauty. And it shifted my perception and my perspective from that moment on. From that moment on, I could not get back into the limited paradigm, the limited way of thinking, and the limited perception that I was living in at that time. The dream of separation had begun to be shattered. In other words, I had a taste of reality. Reality is with a capital R, which means that there is something that we don't create. We hear the term, you create your own reality. The real reality of that, or the truth about that, is that individuals create their experience of reality. They don't create reality. We create our experience of reality. In that moment, when that perception shattered, I could see and feel the love, beauty that was everywhere. Today, I call it the presence that's never in absence. I call it love, beauty, intelligence, a presence, transcending religions. It is real. So the average individual is dreaming that they're awake. They're in a dream of separation from this presence. They think they're awake, but they're in a small paradigm, a small perception of reality, and basically experiencing that particular perception. This is why I say, you know, I had some lyrics in a song that I co-wrote many years ago, that individuals are walking asleep, dreaming that they're awake. This is the plight of the human experience. All human suffering comes from the inability to see reality. Let's go back to reality with the capital R again. Reality with the capital R is love, beauty, intelligence, order, harmony. These are all the very essence of the presence that is never an absence. That's reality. Humanity suffers from the inability to see this. They see and they experience their perception of reality that they've inherited from society, that they've inherited from their families, they've inherited from the passing down of the lineage that they have come from. So they have a tendency to walk in the world, seeing and experiencing their perception of life. So the path to awakening and the path to seeing reality is what you're on. By embracing the idea that you're limitless, embracing the idea that you're cultivating a level of mastership, that there's really a master within you, is profound. You have established an intention to do what? To wake up. Throughout the ages, waking up has been embedded in every true spiritual path. Not manipulation, not making something happen, but waking up to that which is real. Again, capital R, real, which means eternal. It means forever. It means timeless, dimensionless, no beginning, no ending. So when we say waking up to that which is real, we're waking up to the timeless, dimensionless, forever and ever expression of life itself. When an individual has an insight into that awareness, then their life experience begins to change. Because now they're having more and more a direct encounter with that which is real. That is what happened to me in the late 70s. I could not get back in that box again. And I went on to research what had happened to me, bumped into the teachings of meditation, deep introspection, affirmative inquiry, the mystical teachings of the ages that transcends religiosity, and developed a spiritual practice that allowed me to stabilize that awareness. So there's two things I want you to catch. One is awakening itself. In a moment, we're going to do a spiritual practice around that. One is awakening itself, and two is the stabilization of that awakening. I dare say that each of you who are watching this teaching right now have had moments of insight, moments of revelation, moments of awakening, but perhaps it got covered over with the busyness of your life. Something else took a priority. You didn't necessarily have a spiritual practice that embraced it and stabilized it. It became a part of your memory that you sometimes draw upon and say, oh, one day I had this beautiful spiritual experience, and it didn't really get integrated into your life. So it got relegated to merely memory. It was there, and it is here now, that moment. So you who are tuning in right now, what's pulling you here to be with me and Panache is to open yourselves up to an awareness that you're dreaming you're awake on some level. Now, there's three kinds of awakening, at least three kinds of awakening, I should say. The first kind of awakening is what you're all familiar with. You go to bed at night, you go into a dream state, you may or may not remember your dreams, and then you wake up. So you go to sleep and you wake up in your bed and say, oh, I'm awake now. One kind of awakening. Second kind of awakening is when you have what some people call a near-death experience. I call it a near-life experience, in which an individual has severed from their body temporarily. Sometimes they hover over their body and they see that they're not their body. Or sometimes an individual may have a lucid dream or astral travel and look back and see their body in the bed while they're traveling. That's the second kind of awakening. It means that you're becoming aware that you're not your body temple, that you have a body, but you're not your body, that your body is in your field of awareness for your use, for your mobility in this dimension, for your communication in this dimension, for your articulation, for your building, for your creativity in this dimension. That's the second kind of awakening, when you become aware that you're not the body. The third kind of awakening is what I've just described, is when you wake up to the awareness that you're not separate from life. Capital L, life, has many names. The great God of the universe, the presence that's never an absence, the divine presence, Mother, Father God, great God of the universe. There are millions of names for life that is always giving of itself totally and completely, and never has any withhold, never stops being life, never contradicts its own nature, always being itself. So this first module is dedicated to us coming to an understanding, if we're going to live a masterful life, it has to really be about awakening to our intrinsic nature, not just maintaining our limited perception. And in that limited perception or purview or paradigm, we go out into the world and try to make something happen. Because even if you do that you're doing it from a limited point of view, and the results are minimal. This is what we see in the world now. We see individuals being very busy, chasing after the baubles of the world, living at the level of survival, succumbing to materialism, consumerism, entertainment, being very, very busy. But day after day, year after year, there's not necessarily an accomplishment around the unfoldment of their soul, in which, when there's right seeing and right being and an unfoldment of the soul, then our needs are met more easily, robust health is embodied more easily, clarity, all the things that people are pining for and trying to get is intrinsic within us as our true nature in being. So awakening, coming out of the dream of separation. So I'm accepting that the story that I told you about myself, it's not unique. I'm not a special person. I'm not different from anyone else. Via spiritual practice, via this particular class you're going to go through, you can be available to an awareness that transcends your limited perception. And so this is what we want to do. I want to enter into a spiritual practice right now. I want you, right where you are, to make sure your feet are firmly placed on the ground. I want you to have your palms facing upward as a sign of receptivity. Close the outer eyes. I know you probably want to look at me, but don't look at me right now. Just close the outer eye and hear my voice. Take a deep breath and squeeze your shoulders up to your ears and squeeze the body temple as tight as you can from the bottom of your feet all the way to the top of your head and your face. Squeeze everything. And then release. And allow for the body temple to come into a state of relaxation after the conscious tension that you placed it under. Close the outer eye, put a slight smile on your face, and turn within. And we want to strike the mystic chord of memory right now. I want you to scan your awareness and come to a memory. Everyone has one. A memory in which you had an awakening. You may call it crystal clean clarity, a moment of pure clarity, pristine awareness. Suddenly, the clouds of the mind departed, and you could see with your inner eye clearer than you've ever seen before. Sometimes individuals come into this state when there's a moment of crisis and suddenly everything becomes clear and they know exactly what to do. Sometimes it comes when an individual may be involved with Mother Nature. They may be walking through the forest or standing upon rocks looking at the ocean or in a desert, or it could be just a moment that just caught you off guard and suddenly there was a moment of clarity, a moment of awakening that you were more than the body temple. You were more than the mental body. You were more than the experiences that were happening to you or appeared to be happening to you. You had a moment of mental sobriety. You became clear. I want you to scan your awareness and touch such a moment. It's there. Begin to wrap your attention around such a moment. Let me give you an alternate to that in case you can't find one. Everyone has had a moment of sobriety and clarity, but if one doesn't quickly come into your awareness, let us re-engineer our imagination. And for a moment, imagine a moment of clarity and insight and revelation. Involved with a presence that is never an absence, life itself. So whether it is through memory that we're activating or through imagination in which the mind doesn't know the difference between the two, come with me into this moment of supreme clarity, a moment of awakening. I'm going to invite you to, in just a second, to take a deep inhalation. And when we get to the apex of this inhalation, you're going to hear the clap of my hand. And I want you to expand this sense of clarity tenfold. You're just giving yourself a suggestion to do so. You don't have to know how. It will happen with your suggestion and my activated suggestion. Take an inhale deeply, sustain, expand, tenfold. Feel and remember this clarity. Inhale deeply, sustain, times 50. Feel and remember the awakening. Inhale, sustain the breath right there, times 100. Release. Begin to allow yourself to feel into this expanded awareness. Now I'm going to invite you to do one other thing. I'm going to invite you to take another inhalation. This time you're going to sustain the breath for a longer period of time, which is going to allow for your nervous system to acclimate to this expanded awareness. Previously, your nervous system may have been acclimated to fear, being startled, being nervous. Now, we're going to acclimate the nervous system to an expanded awareness. So throughout the course of the day, out the course of the week, you'll be able to come back to this. Inhale. Sustain the breath. Don't let it out. Be aware of this expanded awareness. Sustain. Nervous system is acclimating. Sustain. Another few seconds. Now release. Throughout the course of this week, what I want you to do is from time to time, activate your mystic chord of memory about what it feels like to have the mental sobriety, the expanded awareness. Take a deep inhalation, sustain around it, and then release. When you lose yourself to a sense of separation, come back, inhale, sustain, and release. All human suffering comes from humanity's inability to see reality with a capital R. You're awakening. Peace and blessings. We'll see you in the next class, next module. Have a bright day.